we're getting a lot closer now. Up next is making sure that we have some endpoints that executes those queries the way we expect them to. So it'll be our user interface, essentially. And to do that, let's also go ahead and write some tests. So go into the routes auth.test.js file, and let's describe some new routes here. Let's start by describing a post recover route for recovering account. And we will also describe a post password reset route. And each of these will contain a test that the user can request password recovery and receive, I spelled that wrong, receive? Is that how you spell it? I don't know. A success message, and it should have an async callback. And we also want one here, or maybe we'll have two here. Oops. And these will have user, let's say, user with valid token can reset password. And otherwise, let's also have a test that does user with invalid token gets 400 error. Oops. Gets 400 error. There we go. Now, these are going to be a little funky, so let's break them down in pieces. This first one here, we're going to just say await request app dot post auth recover, and we'll send, I cannot type, dot send email. And in this case, remember that we are using the common before each. Ooh, I think I messed this up here. Let's fix that. I think that's common before each, common after each. Okay, there we go. If you see that error, I might have fixed it before you watch this video, but if you see that error, make sure to fix that. And then come in here and you can use, I'm going to actually import this LeBron token here, or just a token, doesn't matter which token, but I think that's the first user. And I'm going to send in this LeBron, email is lebron@james.io, which is a user that I know exists in the database. And then, this did one of those things again, where it sets the encoding instead of just doing set. Nice try. There we go. And then once it awaits that, we will expect the res.status code to equal 200. And we will expect the res.body to equal a message that says, if your account exists in our system, you should receive an email shortly. So we're not even telling the user if their email address exists in our system. We're just telling them, hey, if you sent in a valid email, we'll send you a password reset, or we'll send you a password reset email. Otherwise, like, you won't get one because that email doesn't exist, just so we're not letting users know or giving an easy mechanism to let people know if an email account exists in our system. Just like kind of a nice little security thing there. And then here, with the user with valid token can reset their password, let's do a few things here. This one actually, I probably should just go into the database and create some test data here, but you know what? The preferred way to do this is to actually add a reset token to LeBron James's email account in the user's setup here. So actually go ahead and do that. But I think for the time being, let's just go ahead and do the whole thing directly in the routes file here, just so that we can establish exactly what's happening. We'll say const user equals await user dot fetch user by email. Oh my, no. Fetch user by email. Fantastic. And we will pass in the email. Then we'll say const reset token equals, I think we have to import that tokens in here. Oh, we already did. Oh, it imported the user model for me too. That's so nice of it. Thank you. Equals tokens.generate password reset token. So we're basically doing the exact same thing we did in our user tests. And then we will save user.save password reset token with the email and the reset token. Then we will send a request to await request app dot post, and in this case we will post auth and its password, auth password reset, and then we'll say equals reset token dot token. Now, this is kind of funky here, this question mark token equals syntax, and we'll be talking about that briefly. But for the time being, no, don't do that. Nice try. Almost got me again. New password is brand new password. Cool. And once we have that res, we expect that res status code to equal 200, and we expect res.body to equal message password successfully reset. We should also test here probably that the password, that the send email method was called, but we'll get to that later on. Then let's just make sure that the, let's call this updated user. Let's make sure the user's password is actually changed. Await user.fetch user by email, and we'll expect that the user.password equaling new or updated user.password to be falsy. So similar check as we did before. And in this case, all we're going to do is say const bad token is equal to bad token. That's easy enough. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll use this exact same system, except instead of sending the reset token.token, we'll just say bad token, which will be an incorrect token, so it should throw an error for us, and we will expect the res.status code to equal 400, and we'll expect the res.body to equal an error message. Error with a message that says that token is either expired or invalid. I think we put a period at the end of that and a status of 400. Cool. So that's quite a bit of stuff we just did there. That's a lot of testing. Let's make sure it works. npm test --auth.test.js, because we're testing a few things here. We're testing the post password reset route and the post recover route. And let's run those tests. And hopefully they work. Maybe they don't. Okay. User with, okay, cool. This didn't work. We got a 404 because we haven't created that yet. And we got a 404 here because we haven't created that yet. So let's go ahead and do that here. Let's go in and let's add 2 more routes. Let's go ahead and import that email service that we created earlier. Equals require. We'll say //services. Now the reason why I'm saying just //services is because we're exporting an email service, a generic email service here from services/index.js. So that's exposed to the rest of our application. So then in our auth routes here, we can simply do this. We can say router.post recover, and we'll say async rec res next, and we will try and catch any errors. And in this recover block, we will say make sure that the user has sent an email in rec.body, and we will generate a token, password reset token for them, and then we will save the user's password reset token with the email and the token. And if that user existed and we found them, we will send them an email. We just want to say email service here because it's the instance of the email service class. And we will say send password reset email, which is a function that we have not written yet. And then we will return res.status 200.json with a message if your account exists in our system, you should receive an email shortly. Cool. Otherwise, we'll pass the error along. And let's do the same thing here. But in this case, it'll be for the password reset. And we will first extract the token. We'll say const token equals rec.query. And this is an interesting thing here. This rec.query is something we're going to discuss in a second, but it has to do with query parameters or URL search parameters, and it is exactly why we use this syntax here, this question mark token equals, is what's known as a query parameter in the URL, and we'll discuss how they're used in a second. But for the time being, let's just finish up this method. Instead of saying email, we'll want the new password the user has sent out to us. And then we will not need to generate a token. Instead, we will just reset their password with the token they've sent us and the new password. And if that user exists, we will send a password reset confirmation email. Just letting them know, hey, your password was reset. And then in this case, the message will be simple and short. Password successfully, did I spell successfully? 2 C's? Successfully reset. Spelling is not my forte. Okay, and so then all we need to do now to make sure these tests pass is that our email service should have at least 2 skeleton methods that have one for password, send password reset email, and one for send password confirmation email. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll add that method here. We'll say async send password reset email, and it should accept, well, we'll do that in a minute. Complete me, and then let's do another one here. We just want to do the bare minimum to get these tests passing. So we'll come in here and add the password reset confirmation email as well. Now in this auth.test, let's just make sure that let's just see if this recover test passes. And by the way, again, just adding the dot only to the end of that describe means it'll only test the ones inside this describe block, which is pretty convenient sometimes. Let's make sure that one's passing. If you want to isolate your tests, make sure things work, cool. Skip the other ones. That one worked. It's exactly what we wanted. Let's describe this one only here too. Make sure it works. Uh-oh, failed this one. Let's see why. Okay, cool. We have an error here. Now, this is actually a good chance to kind of explore what the error might have been. And since it doesn't really print anything super descriptive here, we just see that it got a 500 error. We don't exactly know why. So let's go in here and console.log res.error and see what we get. And let's run that one more time. Okay, cool. And again, the one that that failed was this user with valid token can reset password. And it says the error message email service.send password reset confirmation email is not a function. Okay, so send password reset confirmation email. Could have sworn I updated that. Maybe I didn't, or I didn't spell it right. Maybe I didn't save it. Let's try that one more time. Okay, still an error. Still a 500. It says email service.send password reset confirmation email is not a function. Okay, super interesting. Let's see what I spelled wrong here. Well, this video is already long enough. I won't make you debug the rest of it with me, but hopefully I should have it fixed by the next video. Okay, just kidding. I did a little snooping and I think I figured out what the error is. Looking at my import here, I'm importing the email service itself, which happens to be, if we look at our index.js, an object containing the email service as an attribute. So what I actually want to do here is when I import that, here, I want to say const email service. Like it's in destructure out the email service itself rather than the object with an email service property. Now hopefully that should get that test passing. And if it does, I'll be super happy. Okay, it didn't. Let's see why. Oh, cool. Okay. The only thing I changed is we want a period at the end of that, which I will put right here. Good. Let's see if you work now. Okay. Looks similar, but not quite. Can now read password of undefined. Cool. Where we at? User. Okay. Because this does not exist in the database at the moment. Okay, so I still have an error. One sec. I would expect that to not be the case, given LeBron at james.io. Common before all, common after all, before each, after each. Let's see what's going on here in the tests. So that should, did I get that correct? LeBron at james.io. That seems to be right. So that for whatever reason that user does not exist, which is not what I want. Oh, cool. So the first one is actually the one that we wanted, the invalid token. Oh, it's still passing, same thing. Okay. So let's see here. Cool. So that's actually working now. That's how I figured out that the email service was actually just the object containing the email service. So we don't need that anymore. And in this actual test here, it's looking for this user object here, and it should have a password, but it doesn't. And the reason why is, let's see, because I have another typo here, fetch user by username rather than fetch user by email. Cool. All right, let's try you one more time. I hope you work. And you do, and that took way longer than it needed to, but that's how debugging goes sometimes. So now we have both those tests passing, and we can rejoice and be happy. So next up, let's actually go in and implement this send password reset email and send password reset confirmation email methods.